So the thing that prompted this video actually was a post by Eric Lillibridge the other day. If any of you guys have been following his progress or anything like that, he's recently brought his deadlift up quite a significant amount. So in training, he's gone from 900. He's been consistently around a 900-pound deadlift for a while now, and then all of a sudden went up to 925 in training. And then recently, I think he attempted somewhere in the neighborhood of 940 something in his most recent meet, and this got under my skin a little bit. It was on one of his videos from the meet of that attempt. You had one keyboard warrior, let's call it, who essentially said, "Oh, stick to pulling something like 800 pounds," just because. Well, granted, Eric brought it to his mid thigh, the 940 something pound pull, and he was kind of giving him crap about it. So, and this just kind of prompted me thinking that I see this all the time, and this is not only on his type of stuff, but with people's squats and stuff. So you'll see two different guys, like we'll say Andrei Milanichev, who is a Russian lifter who has a very prominent squat, and him and Eric seem to go back and forth between the all-time world record with squatting and knee wraps. And then we'll use a guy like Layne Norton as another example. Prefacing this, you have two different style squatters. One who has a lot of forward lean, who almost looks like he good mornings it up in Layne Norton, and another who stays fairly upright when they pull. And, or not when they pull, when they squat, excuse me. And between the two, there's no real right way to do it, and that's something that a lot of people need to get through their heads. Pretty much the key factor, and this is for lifting itself as well as programming, is you have to follow along a few basic principles, and as long as you're following those principles, you're going to be successful. So let's use deadlift as an example. With deadlift, one of the important factors is you want to make sure that your hips are always below your shoulders. That way you're not putting too much strain in the lower back when you're coming up. And you have what's called shear stress and axial loading, which basically means if, let's say you're starting to pull your deadlift and your spine is being compressed, the axial loading is the pressure going down on your spine, and then you're bringing it up, and then shear is once you're under load, your spine is then changing its position. So it's going from, let's say, this position to this position. Now that's going to be a problem. Shear is dangerous under axial load. So essentially the idea, and this goes for both when you're squatting and when you're deadlifting, is that you want no change in your spinal position under load. So you have a lot of people going there and saying something like, "Oh, like he's rounding his back too much." And a good example of that's Pete Rubish, who at least used to have much more thoracic roundness in his deadlift toward the top of the pull, and he doesn't have nearly as much anymore, but it's one of those things that his spinal position is not changing at all during the entire lift, and because it's not changing, it's not putting him in any compromising position. So it's just something to think about before you guys go typing on somebody's lifts saying like, "Oh, you gotta work on this aspect because you're doing this wrong. You're gonna throw your back out. You're gonna hurt yourself." Just think about the common principles between two lifts. Is his spine being compromised because there's a lot of shifting in spinal alignment during the lift? Does it look, if it doesn't look dangerous, it probably isn't dangerous. We'll go back to Layne Norton as another example. So you see his squats in the high 600s. Even though he has had a few back injuries, he doesn't have a very significant amount of movement in his lumbar spine. So you'll see him at the bottom of a squat, go back up, his hips might shoot up a little bit, but there's really not a big change in his spinal position. So his spine's really not being compromised as much. So just take that into account and think before you type something, okay? That's it.